Hey there, I'm Alan Matthews from Classical Guitar Shed, and in this video you'll hear some good reasons to split your practices into two smaller practices, or one smaller and one longer practice each day, and the benefits that you could get from such a small change of your practice. If you enjoy this, please do subscribe to this channel. So before we get into talking about actually splitting the practices, let's talk about how we learn best to begin with. So first off, if I gave you a string of numbers, and I won't, but if I gave you a string of numbers and said memorize these numbers, chances are you would memorize the first few and the last few. And that would be, and then all the stuff in the middle would get really fuzzy. And that's the exact same thing as it is in our practices. If we practice something for 45 minutes, if we have but my rhythm just isn't quite right in there, and we practice that for 45 minutes, chances are the most benefit that we'll get are within about the first 2 minutes and then the last 2 minutes, as we know we're fixing to be done. We're getting ready to finish it. So we learn best at the beginnings and the endings, and those are events, right? Beginning something, we perk up its novel, and when we're ending, then our brain says, oh, we're getting ready to end, I better pay attention here so I can get the most out of this. So knowing that, well, one thing that we can do in our practices is just to constantly bounce from one thing to the next instead of spending 45 minutes on one thing, to spend a few minutes on it and then leave and then come back and then leave and then come back. And so then that's a better way in general. But as far as our whole practice sessions go, one of the things that can be really beneficial is to split the practices into more than one smaller practice. And this could be that you have one in the morning, one in the night. I oftentimes will do one in the morning, one in the early afternoon, after lunch. I find that's a good time for me. Or either right before lunch if I'm having late lunch. So sometime midday. So the benefit of this is that you can split the things that you do in those different ones. So you could have a solid technique workout in the morning and then just work on your pieces in the afternoon or in the evening. You could practice your new music at one and then practice your existing tunes that you just like to play through and keep them nice and crisp. You could play those later in the day. And so one could be more relaxing, fun, playing through whole pieces of music. One could be working more on details and small problem-solving issues. And so you can split what you're doing up. The other thing is if you are memorizing new music and you're learning new music, you could do them at both. And that really helps us learn so much faster than just once a day. So if we're doing it, we learn two new measures of music. Okay, I'm going to practice that a few times, then I'm going to do my other stuff. Then in the evening, I can come back and practice it again. And then as I'm sleeping, then my brain will be churning on it, and it knows that it's important and that it should really put that into long-term memory because we've done it twice or more during the day. It really signals to the brain that this is important. Learn it, do it. So the repetition is really nice with new music. Same thing as if we're working on a tricky bit in our pieces, then if we work that tricky bit for 30 seconds in the morning, work on it again later in our other practice, then we're going to learn that much faster. We're going to get over it and clean it up much faster, and it'll only take 30 seconds or a minute on each practice. Another thing is if you have already a really good practice schedule and you have I do an hour a day after dinner every day. It's perfect. I've been doing it this way for 40 years and it's just perfect, right? That's great for me. Well, even another 10-minute practice at a different time, earlier in the day, later in the day, whatever it happens to be, that extra little practice, focusing on things that you're really wanting to improve, so memorizing your new music or working on your tricky things or doing some technique work or reviewing some repertoire, anything that you do, that little practice is going to give you much more than the few minutes that you actually put into it. So it's like 2 + 2 = 6. It becomes that type of math that the benefits in our learning rate it gets, I don't know if it's actually exponential, but it's more than linear. So it's more than twice as much benefit for the practice. So for each minute of practice, if you can split it up and do it into smaller bits, we do have to get time out. We do have to get enough time in to be able to focus. Because we sit down for 5 minutes and we're still thinking about what he said, she said, they said, and the drama on our housewives shows that we're watching or whatever it is, then it's not going to be great practice. But as long as we have enough time to really sink in and focus and get into that zone, then it doesn't have to be very long to be really beneficial. So I hope this helps. Give it a shot in your practice. I'm sure that you will find all kind of benefits and that you will very much enjoy it as well. It also, last benefit just came to mind, is that if later in the day, if something comes up and you miss your other practice, then you've already gotten a small practice in. And so then you're less likely to miss a day altogether in your practice, which is really nice. All right. I hope you've enjoyed this. Please subscribe to this channel, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.